thinking about the pressure parents feel to make sure their child is getting all the nutrients. I think about my daughter and all of the breads and cakes she's eating, and I'm like, but you need broccoli. So, in those situations, how can we balance encouraging a variety of nutrients that logically we know is helpful for our child to grow and get stronger while also cultivating that positive relationship with food?
It's a great question. And so I really feel like it goes back to modeling, where our culture wants us to talk about food and nutrition a lot. And maybe our instinct might be to explain to our young child why we want them to eat broccoli. But really, if we can go back to the modeling of what are we serving our children throughout the day for their meals and snacks? What are we ourselves doing? Are we stopping to eat and sit down with our children when we can? We all have very busy lives, but how are we modeling what eating well looks like? And so, really thinking that we have thousands of opportunities as parents know of eating, right? We eat at least three, if not more times a day. Think about how many times a month that ends up being. And so, really thinking the way children learn what quote unquote healthy eating is by the food we offer, it's by how we eat, and it's by really prioritizing taking time to stop and fuel our bodies for what we have to do that day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anna. I want to turn it over to Sarah at this point because, Sarah, you are the expert at modeling healthy habits and making it a doable part of your day. So, can you dive into that a little bit? How do we model healthy habits for the next generation when it comes to food and movement of our body?
Absolutely. I think the first kind of overarching theme that I stick with is progress over perfection. It's like you said, your daughter's grabbing, carbohydrates and cakes, and that's like what their little bodies want. And just teaching them that it doesn't need to be perfect. Like you can have dessert at night, you can go to a birthday party and have a snack, but overall, this is what we're feeding ourselves at night. Like when we sit down to dinner and we have protein and we have fruits and vegetables and we have those healthy carbohydrates, that's the focus, but it doesn't make the other things bad either. That it's like you want to eat, I say 80-20 all the time. Like 80% of the time you're making these good choices. And the other 20% of the time is, the stuff that are treats and that things we want and things like that. And I think you'd be surprised with a very early age, not labeling things as good or bad really helps. That I think just kind of takes away that pressure of, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, like skinny was the only version of things you had to be. And it was very clear from a young age what was good and what was bad. And brownies aren't bad. Like brownies make you feel great. And we have a
Brownies are
family brownie
life.
restaurant.
I'm just going
Brownies
to
are life,
interject and say there.
right? And we have a brownie recipe that's been passed down generation to generation in our family. And it's something that we hold so dear, like the process and the ritual of making these brownies and enjoying them with family and enjoying them with friends that come over. Those brownies aren't bad. I mean, should I eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No. But it's just about making those healthy choices. And it is all about modeling. So if you only put like bread and some broccoli in front of your kids, of course they're going to eat bread. Like I would eat bread too if I was able to. But just having those choices and kind of taking the pressure away from what we say like traditional dinner looks like. So growing up, it was like you had your protein, you had your carbohydrates, you had a vegetable. Well, it doesn't need to look like that. We do a lot of charcuterie board dinners because I have two very picky eaters, and we give an option of proteins and like an option of dairy choices and an option of fruits and vegetables. And it really doesn't take all that much more time to do, because we prep things a little bit ahead of time and then give the choices. So there's a lot to choose from. So it's not like, oh, there's only broccoli tonight. Oh, my daughter hates broccoli. What can we do? Like it might be, okay, do you want carrots and ranch? Maybe you want some broccoli. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's snap peas tonight. But having this charcuterie board thing we've come back to a bunch, even with sports nights, of having just options. And there's a lot of healthy options, and it doesn't need to look a particular way. Your plate doesn't need to be that chicken with the broccoli and the rice like it did for many of us growing up.
Yeah.
But giving them the power to choose, I think, is huge.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah.
I wanted to throw in something around infants and feeding, especially as a postpartum doula. One of the things that I oftentimes see is like, is my baby eating enough, whether we're breastfeeding or formula feeding? And so it's recognizing, can I tune in and know and understand what my baby actually needs and be okay and trust them in that process? And I just share that because sometimes that's a great place to just start and reset. So we start laying that foundation as we model those healthy habits.